My name's Lorraine Lewis. I'm based in Northampton. I am a co-founder of a charity that supports cancer patients in hospital called the Lewis Foundation. I'm very into my fitness, so I would regard myself as a runner. I'm an artist and I love to be creative in my favourites in particular is watercolour and acrylic. And I love to write. So yeah, a mixed bag really.
Mixed bag. And you have actually written an incredible book, which is called Dare to Dream, which is a memoir, which
Yeah.
we'll be talking about a little later on. But I'd love to hear, you mentioned a lot of things there. You're a runner, you're an artist, you're an author. What were you like as a little girl growing up? Were you sporty? Were you outdoorsy? What were your early years like?
Definitely not sporty or outdoorsy. I was the one that always get my mum to write me a note to get out of PE. So fitness was not my thing at all, to be honest. It just never really appealed to me at school. It wasn't taught in a way that excited me. What I did always love doing when I was younger as a child, I was very much into my reading and writing. It's something I absolutely always loved to do. And I was also very creative in terms of art as well. So for me, I was a child. I was quiet and I had friends, but kind of kept myself to myself. But I was very much into that whole creative, element, whether that was drawing, painting, writing, or reading, really. So that was pretty much summed me up as a person.
But you actually didn't follow down that path, did you? You decided on a different route. Do you want to share more about that?
Yeah, so for me, like I grew up in an area, so in Northampton where I lived on a council estate, and I was in an environment where I knew nobody who had the job that I was looking for, which was to be a barrister. So I'd always wanted to be one. I used to watch a lot of legal programs with my parents and was really passionate when I saw people get justice, especially for the victims of crimes. And so when I decided that's what I want to do, I was pretty young, around 8 or 9. I decided, okay, I'm going to go to school and put that forward as a career path I wanted to take. But the school I was in wasn't designed for careers like that. So when I went to approach my teacher when we had our careers chat and said I wanted to be a barrister, I was kind of directed elsewhere and said, don't waste your time because you're a woman and you're black. And as a child, that was quite hard to hear because my parents have always been very supportive and encouraging in that. Like, even though your circumstances that you live in, we don't have anybody that goes to university, we don't know anybody in law, there's still a way that it could happen. So to be told by a teacher that wasn't possible was really upsetting. And I remember going home and telling my mum and dad, and they were like, don't worry, remember what we always said, you can do and be anything you want, and we'll figure out a way. And we know you're a very determined person. So, yeah, let's together try and figure out a way to make that path happen. And that's what I started to do.
It was really fascinating. I loved reading your book, especially at the start where you talked about this experience, and I was just like, oh my god, you sort of forget that people aren't like your parents who are like, you can do and be anything you want. We will support you, and that there are people out there who don't want you to dream, don't want you to have ambitions and goals, and it's almost like their purpose in life is to squash your dreams and ambitions. That didn't happen. Do you want to share just more? And the reason I'm sort of asking you this question is that I think this determination and resilience that you showed throughout this period has really what's the word, like it shows up later on in your life in some of the other things that we're going to be talking about. So being giving that message, no, you can't do this because you're a woman and you're black. It's someone trying to stamp on you, but very supportive parents. Talk us through what happened next.
For me, then, when I had my parents back in, and it does make a difference because when you've got somebody champion you, even where you feel like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get to my goal, it makes a massive difference. So, like I said, I had no network, no avenues of support. The school wasn't supporting me at that particular time. So I started to do my own research. So it was before the days of the internet. So I had to go old school with pen and paper. And so I used to go into the library in town and they had a book where it had all the list of all the different solicitors and barristers' chambers and courts where you could write to people. And I remember just getting it and just writing to everybody and anybody who would potentially just give me an opportunity, explaining my circumstances. And I didn't think anybody would get back to me, but actually I was really surprised that they did. And I remember when it was the school holiday time, I would then spend my holidays just going to the courts, sitting with the people I wrote to, asking them for the advice. How do I get to do what I need to do? And when I was in those environments, it made me feel like actually it is possible. And if I keep putting myself out there and just sharing, and hopefully then somebody would help me. And then at school, my school was a nightmare. So it was a school where the environment wasn't set up to learn. So it was very disruptive. And we only had like a handful of people that actually wanted to learn. And I remember there was one teacher who was completely different to all the others who said, right, there's a handful of you here who I can see are really determined to achieve your goals. I'm going to send you to a school in Northampton, which is a really good school called Northampton Schools for Boys. And we're going to pay for your transport and we're going to get you lessons set up so you can get the GCSE grades you need to pass. And to be honest, it was that teacher having that belief, because without that teacher, there would be no way I could actually get through the GCSEs and get the time to understand and study and learn from people. It was kind of having the teacher, that one teacher backing you, but also then me starting to explore my own avenues and paths and creating my own opportunities. I think that's what it is. I created my own opportunities to gain the experience I needed to be able to get the career I desired. So I think that's what I learned during that period, that you have to create your own opportunities if nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah. So you did, you went on to get your qualifications,
Yeah.
your GCSEs, your A levels, getting into university, and I can't, what was the name? You did a special program.
Yeah, it's called the Bar Vocational course. So that's the final year course that you do to become a barrister.
So you did all of these. Honestly, you progress and you progress, and you qualified as a barrister at the age of 21, which is absolutely amazing. During this time, did you have time to do sports and physical activities?
No, there was no time because my parents tried to help me as much financially as they could, but to supplement my student loan, I had to work. So pretty much when I wasn't at university studying or doing my barrister training course, I was working because I needed that extra money to be able to fund my course essentially. So I didn't really have any time for those kind of like fun activities or those sporty activities. It was literally like my one goal was that I had to get this done, because I remember when I was entering the university stage and they said, by the way, like you can do this, but it's going to cost, by the time you finish, you'll be in £50,000 worth of student debt. And I was like, I really want this. So there was no option but to get to the end, because I thought I'm not spending £50,000 and not getting a job. And once I did my university qualification, which was great, and we started the barrister training course. I remember on day one, there was 130 of us in this room in Bristol who had signed up to do this course. And I remember the lecturer saying, there's this many people in this room, probably only about 10 of you are actually going to get a job. And then I felt sick because I thought, oh, by that time, like I'm literally £50,000 in. So for me, there was no time but I had to do it no matter what. So yeah, I was so determined. There was no option for failure. It had to be completed no matter what.
Yeah. But also that's I just think that's an insane statistic.
It was really scary. I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, I can't even tell my parents because they're gonna go nuts." But it was like, in a way, it was good because it like drove you that like you're not here to mess about. Like if you actually want this, you've got to put your head down and you've got to get on with it. So yeah, it's a crazy statistic, but I'm so glad I was able to be determined enough to make it happen.
I think it's one of those things that if you're not in that world or you're not exposed to it, then you just wouldn't know. Like I would just make the assumption it's like, oh well, you go and do this course and then you come out at the end and then
There's a job
you're
waiting. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But it was and because I didn't have the extra connections, because a lot of the people that were there, they were, their parents might have been a judge or a solicitor or a barrister, or that they knew somebody was. So they had that kind of added advantage where I had nothing. So yeah, it was all about going all in to do what I needed to do to try and make it happen.
And you did go all in, you did make it happen. But I think later on there was a couple of challenges and changes that sort of happened in your life that not threw you for a bit, but definitely caused some waves. Do you want to share more about what happened?
Yeah, so I qualified as a barrister at 21 and everything seemed to be all good. I'd met Lee, who is now my husband, when I was 20. So we'd finished the course, we were together, got married. So this was by 25, got a house, got a job. I got a job pretty much straight away, which I was really pleased about. So I thought, yeah, life seemed pretty good. And then a couple of months after we got married is when my life changed completely, is when Lee's mum was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember for a while she had been saying, she's getting lumps around her body, but we kept being told they were cysts. And then I even remember on our wedding day, like the lump was so big on her neck she couldn't hear. And I was like, look, we really need to get this looked at after the wedding. And then when we did push it, we found out that it wasn't cysts, it was actually cancer. And it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, and pretty aggressive because it had been left so long. And it's kind of like I've never had any experience of cancer before. So for me, it felt completely alien and I didn't know what to do or what to expect. And at first, I remember my mother and father-in-law called me before they called Lee because I didn't know how to tell him. And I remember thinking, I don't really know how to tell him either. But I remember he was at work and I just called him and I told him. And then it was just like, there was just no reaction. Like I just said, would you like a drink? But then when I got home, he was like absolutely broken and devastated and he was crying. And I had to get his parents to help me because I didn't know what to do. And it really opened up my eyes of what cancer was like for people. And that getting told that news and then thinking, what do I do or how do I support somebody? It just changed everything for me. Everything I was doing, it made me question it. Like I was doing the job I wanted to do, but it just felt meaningless. That there must be more to life because I felt like I was just coasting along. And then I decided, okay, what can myself and Lee do? So initially we just spoke about, is there anything we could do to make it better? But didn't really do anything because Lee's mum was going through cancer treatment at the time. It would always be my mother and father-in-law together that would go for treatment. They never really let us go to protect us. And then we found out a couple of months into the treatment that it wasn't working and her only option was to have a bone marrow transplant. And that was like a hospital like an hour away in Leicester. And I think that's when I fully realised that the isolation and loneliness that is experienced by cancer patients. And, there's people on their own day in, day out with no support. Some people didn't even have any visitors. Some people couldn't afford to buy things because they wasn't working. And then it was like, is this really happening? Yet nobody talks about it. And again, it was in the back of our minds. It's like, there must be something to make things feel better for people. But then I didn't get a chance to because shortly after my mother-in-law had a stem cell transplant. My father-in-law just had a heart attack one night and died. And then it was like we were fully in that cancer world because he, in a way, had shielded us from a lot of it. And then when we were sitting there with her on a daily basis, because she was constantly in and out of hospital, sitting there and watching and observing and just seeing that how tough it was for people that were going through cancer treatment, it was like, we've definitely got to do something.
And you did do something.
Yeah, it was like, I was saying from a period. So my mother-in-law was diagnosed in 2010 and she was constantly having treatment in and out of the hospital. The stem cell didn't work. Then it started to work. And then after that, it was still further treatment. So I'll say probably for a solid 4 years in and out of hospital until she was told she was in remission in 2014, which was amazing news for us because it had been such a difficult period of time. But what Lee and I started to do during that time while she was in there, and we were observing the things that really bothered us about why can't we do something to make people feel better in hospital, we started to do simple things like we'll go to the hospital shop and we'll buy things for people, and it could be like a newspaper or a book or a magazine or sweets, and then we'll go round onto the ward and the adult cancer ward in Northampton and would hand it out and spend time with people. And we just saw that it was just the most simplest things with no money exchange, and then a conversation, and the conversation wasn't even often about cancer. It was like what they like watching or about their family or friends or things they enjoyed. And we just saw how much joy it brought to people's day, just this simple act of kindness. And it made us feel happy as well. And because we were going through a difficult time. So when my mother-in-law was in remission, we thought, okay, we're still going to continue this because it's really important and we can see the difference it makes. But before we even started to explore that element, one thing we wanted to do was a big project was raise money to pay for TVs for the adult cancer ward, because we were really fed up that why should patients have to pay £10 a day to watch TV if they're in hospital and don't have a choice. So that is when I got into the actual fitness and ultra running. And it was, I remember I thought I need to do something quite wild to get people to sponsor me. So I signed up to do Tough Mother, the obstacle run. And everyone was like, no, Lorraine, there's no way you can do it, because I was very much into my bags and my shoes, and there was no way I'll be like running or getting muddy or dirty. So people sponsored me because I didn't think I would make it. But I did. And actually, I found I actually really enjoyed it, actually. And I thought, why haven't I done something like this before? And it was a 2-year period. I used that that I fell in with fitness to help me raise funds for the individual TVs for the adult cancer ward so that people didn't have to pay. And then once we'd done that, it was like, well, what else can we do? And we went back to this idea of like giving gifts and time. And that's when the Lewis Foundation started in April 2016.
Yeah, and you've done incredible work with the Lewis Foundation, but also funding a foundation, raising funds for a foundation is challenging.
It is hard.
Yeah, probably harder than some of the ultras and the other
Yeah.
fitness challenges that you've actually taken on. But do you want to share more about how you started to push yourself, sort of physically, and step outside your comfort zone?
Yeah, so when we started the Lewis Foundation in April 2016, like nobody knew who we were. People outside the hospital couldn't get how a gift and giving your time would help. People in hospital, it was a battle to now then give them the gift, because they were like, why does a stranger want to give me a gift for no reason? And so that was a battle in itself. So I then just started to think, right, I really enjoyed doing the obstacle runs. I'm going to use this new love I had for fitness to encourage others and also myself to drive forward to raise funds, because it was really hard to raise funds at first. And I remember like the first run I did was like a pretty muddy, like for cancer research, 5K, and I rallied a couple of colleagues from work to get involved. Again, not something they like doing, but when I told them the story of why I was doing it, they got involved. And then there was like a colour run going on Northampton. So I put out a post and I had like 30 people turn up to raise funds for the Lewis Foundation. So I found I was using this new love for fitness that I had in a way to create a community that we could come together, take part in something, and we would run it as a team. So it wouldn't be everybody running as an individual, it'd be a team effort to raise funds to make a difference. And to be honest, I did that probably for the first 2 years of the Lewis Foundation, constantly reaching out, putting out a message, who wants to join the team, join Team Lewis. And that was how we started to get funds in. But then you can only do so much before you start to exhaust the people that you know. So we were getting to the stage about a year later where we were started to run out of money. It was hard to raise funds every month because we were funding at that time about 80 gifts a month to support adult cancer patients in hospital. And then there was one month where I was like, Lee, I don't know if we'll be able to continue. And it was just like, I don't know what it is. We was like, we just got to trust it. Something will happen. And there was a guy that we'd been supporting called Mike since the start of the charity. He had no family or friends, and we would just bring him different gifts each week. He would go to Lee's work, where Lee worked, and Lee would have his breaks with him. So he had someone to have as like a coffee or a lunch with. And then I remember he passed away. And because we had no other contact with him, he didn't have any family or friends. We didn't hear anything further. And then a couple of weeks later, after the hospital had told us, we got a letter that he'd left the charity £50,000 to further our work. And for us, any self-doubt that we had in that the Lewis Foundation wasn't something that was important, that changed everything to just show that, the acts of kindness and the support we're giving would makes a difference. So yeah, the early days was crazy in terms of like trying to persuade people to, as a community, that we can come together and help another, even though we're strangers. And I think combining the fitness with the work we were doing with general fundraising and raising awareness, that's kind of what led us on the path to do the work that we're doing.
And you will have helped, oh, I'm getting emotional, but you will have helped, like, Mike so much in his final, few
Yeah,
months by those regular visits, just the kindness of strangers, that quality time, and the thoughtfulness. And then now his legacy,
it's
has pa
incredible.
yeah, and he's paid it forward as you continue to do as well. And
Yeah.
with your challenges as well, you do keep taking it up a notch.
Yeah, just a little, just a little tad.
Was it the Three Peaks, which was, like, sort of the first one when you started just sort of, going like, from longer distances from 5K, or what did you progress to? How did it progress?
Yeah, and the Three Peaks again, that happened because of the work that we were doing. So probably about a year into the charity, I was on the adult cancer ward, and I remember speaking to a man called Mick, and we were visiting his sister, and Mick was there sitting next to her, and he was just asking about the charity. We gave her a pamper pack, which is one of our pack, which is filled with like loads of those like hand creams, body lotions, and things like that. And we had a chat, and I didn't really think much of it, more than doing our normal conversations that we do. And then I remember he got in contact a couple of months later to say his sister had passed away, but the packs had meant everything to her. They had a collection at her funeral for the Lewis Foundation, but he wanted to do more. And then he shared that actually he was like a walking instructor, and he would do hikes all around the world. So whether that's the UK, Switzerland, Peru, something he loved doing. And for the support that we gave to his sister, he wanted to do the Three Peaks, and he wanted to include the Lewis Foundation as one of the charities that he wanted to raise money for. So I had never done the Three Peaks or anything like that. So had no awareness what it would be like or how tough it would be not being able to sleep. So it was over a 36-hour period. And we were put with like groups of people of all ages who were all on that same mission to try and raise funds, because we invited people to come along and support and fundraise for the Lewis Foundation as well. And I think what I liked about the Three Peaks is like it's that pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And you're walking, and you're tired, you're walking through the night. Sometimes you feel like giving up, but then you strike up a conversation with somebody that you never met before to keep you going, or somebody else who happens to be walking, up the mountain that's not part of your group. And it just felt, when I did it, it felt really fulfilling. It's like, I can't explain it. It just felt like, wow, I did that. It was such a sense of achievement, like to complete something so big and make a difference at the same time. And I felt great afterwards, even though my body really, really hurt. But once I got over that, it felt great. And it was like, wow, what an incredible experience. And I think what the Lewis Foundation has taught me is I'm surrounded by people all the time with various degrees of illnesses, like from newly diagnosed to end of life. And there's been times where I've had conversations with people around my own age to say they wish they had more time to try things or do things. And I just felt that was like, wow, I tried that and it's an experience. And I want to create more experiences in my life so I can live it to the fullest. I think that's what it is being surrounded by people. It really makes me look at my life and where it's going and what I want to do, and take on a free peak challenge with the example of me creating an experience that I probably never would have had.
But you continue to push yourself sort of physically as well, especially in the running space, and you've definitely started to do longer and longer distances. Do you want to share more about the running journey that you've been on?
Yeah, so I had a couple of years actually from, I would say, so we're 2026 now. So I'll say 2023. So I was 39 years old, and I felt like the Lewis Foundation was a beautiful space, but it had grown so big so quickly. And for me, it's all consuming because it's something I love to do, but it was all consuming to the point where I was kind of neglecting myself. So I'd got into this really like great period up until COVID, where I was literally doing mud runs, like long distance runs all the time. But then because the charity got so busy, it kind of fell by the wayside. And as I was approaching my 40th birthday, I thought, you know what, I've got to do something. I keep thinking about the people that we support, and I really wanted to work on my health. So I set myself a couple of big goals for when I turned 40. One of them was to do an ultra run. I'd always seen the rat race, Hadrian's Wall one, so called the Wall, but it's always like there's no way I can do it. It's just too long of a distance. So before I got into that, I thought, let me just build up my fitness. So I came across a High Rocks group in Northampton, a ladies group, and trained with them. And that really got me back on my feet, and that mindset about how important it was for my physical and mental well-being. And it made me feel great. I felt healthier, but also mentally, it gave me that kind of resilience to deal with all the craziness that I deal with on a daily basis in terms of work. So I really threw myself into that. Then once that was done, I thought, right, I need to get into this rat race to wall. I looked, it was completely booked up because it's a very popular event. And I remember it was the 1st of January, and that would have been 2025. I was doing I do a vision board every year, and then my goals, and on it was rat race the wall. And then I finished it, and then I was opened my emails, and there was an email to say, look, there's just 50 places have been released for Rat Race the Wall for last year. Like, get it before it's gone. And I was like, right, I'm going to do it straight away. And then I was like, I signed up, and I was like, oh my god, how am I going to do 70 miles? How am I going to train for that from January till June? And then I told my husband Lee, he's like, are you crazy? What are you doing? How are you going to get ready for that? And what I did as my goal focus is I set a fundraising project. So in the Macmillan unit in Northampton, they wanted some artwork to brighten up the walls. So I thought if I do that as my goal, that's what I found is if I have a goal to work towards, it's kind of like driver to say that I'm doing it for the patients and I know how happy it's going to make them. So no matter how hard it is, I'm going to complete it. So I probably didn't train for the ultra in the best way. I relied on the fitness I was doing with high rocks, which I discovered was definitely not enough. And I think when I got to start the start of Carlisle Castle, where the wall started, I was like, oh my God, how the hell am I going to do 70 miles? And quite quickly into it, I realised I hadn't trained in the right way because my knee, like from mile 20 something, was just gone. And I remember I was walking and people were asking me, are you okay? You sure you don't want to stop? And I thought, no, I've got to keep going. Like, I've made a commitment now. And my husband Lee was there because he had his bike, and he saw me as I come over this hill at like mile 30 something, and he was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like trying to hide it. And I remember going into the toilet and sitting down and crying because I thought, I don't even know if I can make it. But I just had at the back of my mind that like I've literally got to get this completed for the patients. And I like pulled myself together, and I got to the stage, it was like nearly mile 40. And I thought, I can't run it. So if I can't run it, I'm going to have to walk it. And there was a cut off time of 26 hours. I found some strength within me to just keep going. I remember it was like getting into the late afternoon. It was quite a nice warm day actually. And I just put on like my Ibiza house music and I was just playing it out loud and I was just going and I kind of got like this second wind. And then I made it to the checkpoint before the night, which was mile 48. And what I found amazing were people were coming up to me and was like, you know what, I actually thought you had gone way back. Well done. Like keep going. And it kind of gave me like that drive to say, actually, you know what, I think I can actually do this. But for me, what I realised about the wall when I crossed that finish line the following day in Newcastle city centre, and it was just having that resilience and mindset. And I think even though my body was just like felt physically broken, it was my mind. And I think everything I've seen and witnessed and learned, that mental resilience is what got me across that finish line. And honestly, it was the best feeling ever.
Woo!
Best feeling. It was wild. It was wild.
Anybody who's listening who's done like big distances, like, I mean, my first thought was like doing the high rocks for the 70 miles. I was in my head going, no, like there's,
You know what? That was the most thing I was thinking.
don't get me wrong, high rocks can be amazing,
It's,
but
it's
it's
not the
like
same.
it's
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 not.
like different types of fitness for different
Yeah,
things. It's like
it's not the same. I quickly learned that on the world.
sometimes it doesn't translate across. So this is the reason I'm sort of going, whoa, is because I know from personal experience when you're getting up to 28, 30 miles, like how your body is feeling, like your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your
It was
hips,
just like,
like
I felt so, honestly, when I was there, I was like, Lorraine, the high rocks wasn't enough. You should have trained. You should have trained. But like I said, it was the mindset that was what carried me through. And I didn't think it was that bad. But when like I said, when I saw people saw me at the checkpoint and they were like, I can't believe you're still going, considering how much pain you look like you were in. That is definitely what carried me through the night, walking on my own and getting me across that finish line. Because I didn't at the start, I didn't think I'd could do it, to be honest.
This is where it gets really interesting, that divide between physical and mental, and that resilience and mindset, which you have always had from a young age. From what you've shared, dealing with other people's negative beliefs about you, or when you're told, by the way, out of a class of 110, only 10 of you are going to get a job. It's like you've dealt with all these setbacks and pushbacks, and then also I think the other really key thing here is people will do more for other people than they necessarily will do for themselves. So this wasn't actually about you. For your foundation for cancer patients. I'd like to just dig into that resilience and mindset a bit more. Like, what is like going through your head? Was there anything that really sort of worked for you, or were you trying to switch things off or just forget about things? Like, because I can't even imagine like the highs and lows, especially when you're going, 30 miles, just 40 miles to go.
Yeah.
Like, not even halfway yet.
No, no. I was really fortunate that my husband Lee came along. He had his he did mine afterwards. He said he felt like he'd done at least 40 miles on his bike, so he was very happy. But having him by my side, because he could look at me, and even if I'm not saying it, because he knows me so well, we've been together over 20 years. He can just look at me and see like I'm struggling, and he'll just like make me laugh, or do things to kind of like help me back up. And I remember, for example, it was during the night and it got to like 12 o'clock. And he was like, you know what, I'm not going to go to bed. I'm just going to ride alongside you from like 12 till 2. And then I told him to go back and I'll meet him at the next checkpoint. But even just having him there, and sometimes we were speaking, sometimes he wasn't, that kept me going. But when he wasn't there, I think for me, it was like, I have to get this done because I'm raising money for people. I know how good it's going to make people feel. So I'll be switching between, oh my God, I can't do this, to like, remember, think about the people that you're helping, think about the difference you're making. And I think in my head, then I can think about the patients in hospital and seeing them going without or struggling or not having things. And then thinking about, I know how much better that person's going to feel because I took the time to push myself because I can where they can't. And I think that's a factor as well. I know they can't, so I can. So if I'm healthy, even though at that point I felt exhausted, I can still do something to make a difference, to make their life better. So during those times, I go between, well, it's like I'm having like one brain thought, you can't do it, and then I'll switch back. And that's what keeps me going. So even with the pain, like the pain in my legs was unreal, but it'll be that as a driving factor. And then what I really loved as well is when you talked about, the kindness of the strangers. So I remember getting to Newcastle city centre, and it would have been mile like 68, and people were setting up in the morning like for the Sunday market. But as soon as I was walking through, there were people cheering and clapping and saying, keep going. And I remember I was crying as I was going along because I was in so much agony. But just having that stranger saying, you can do it, like you're almost there, cheering you along, well done. Again, that kindness from a stranger keeps you going as well. So, yeah, it was a whirlwind of emotions, I'll tell you.
Yeah. One of the things that I keep seeing on my social media at the moment is around like this privilege. Do you know what? It was a privilege, and this may sound a bit weird, but it was a privilege for you to be able to be in that pain. It was a privilege for you. You get to move your body for 70 miles. The fact that you can go out there, you're not in a cancer ward, you're not going through cancer treatment. You're out there choosing to do this, to raise funds. And there is so much power in this that you get to do this. And I'm not saying it's still painful and hard and brutally hard, but it's just an incredible achievement to do, and to be honest, like, I think I would be in tears. I would be sobbing as I
I was a
came
mess.
came through to
I looked
start.
absolutely terrible, but it was good. I made it across the line.
You set yourself a really big challenge for 2026. Do you wanna share your big challenge for 2026?
Yeah.
And then also maybe the lessons that you've learned from your 70-mile ultra and how you're gonna change things up with your next challenge?
Yeah, so for 2026, so it's another rat race event I've seen, which is 100-mile ultra, and that's will be in Scotland. So you start in Northumberland at Bamburgh Castle and then you finish at Edinburgh Castle. So it's 100 miles and you have a 48-hour completion time. The reason I'm linking it again is to the Lewis Foundation. So in April will be our 10th birthday. So for us, it's such an incredible milestone to come from having that idea all those years ago to seeing what it is today. And I wanted to do something to market with something that is big and that would make a huge difference. So the money that I'd be raising is going towards a project to improve the adult cancer ward to make it more of a beautiful space because it's a bit run down and tired, so that we can have like a nice garden. So it's a beautiful place to sit to escape off the ward, or some updated TVs, some nice artwork and things like that. So I wanted to do something that can make an impact on the ward that where it all began, really. And so that's why I decided to sign up for this challenge. Things I've learned from last time, I've actually started training. I'm actually following a proper training program. I know I reached out to you to ask for some advice because I thought I cannot do that on a high rocks training. It's just like you said, two different leagues of training. So I started training in January on a proper training program, which, to be honest, has pushed me more than I thought it would and made me realise how I was not at anywhere near the training I needed to be last time. And it feels good because I really need to build up my stamina to be able to go across 48 hours. I've also, for me as well, I'm making sure I eat better. I didn't eat properly on the last one so that I had the fuel that I needed to be able to complete the challenge. I find it quite hard because I'm celiac. I often find it hard to get the stuff I need to fuel, especially when you're on the go with events like this. So working on that as well. So for me, I'm doing this big challenge, something I'm looking forward to. Everyone's like, I thought you said the last one was hard. What are you doing? But I'm actually really quite excited. And I think if I can complete this, then I know the impact it's going to have on the ward is going to be everything. So I feel in a much better place physically. So hopefully it won't be as traumatic as it was last time.
How is the training going, and what is that looking like? How are you fitting that in? Are you early mornings? Are you, 3, 4 times a week? Are you doing back to backs? Are you still doing some high rock sessions or strength and conditioning? What does that look like?
Yeah, so for me, if I don't go first thing in the morning, it's not happening. So I get to the gym for 6 o'clock in the morning, and the program is focused more on the running. So when I used to focus on running with high rocks, it's high rocks is complete as get around as quickly as possible, but it's about building that kind of that long, being able to run for long periods, not necessarily fast, but being able to hold the pace for a period of time to keep you going. So combining different running paces with strength training and like to ease off on certain days like yoga. So at the moment I'm doing the first 6 weeks, you're training about 35 hours a week, which is significantly up from what I was doing before. When I was training for high rocks, it'd be like 5 hours a week. So I'm already noticing it's a bigger commitment, and I'm hoping that bigger commitment does pay off because I can see what I need to do now and if I had done that for the wall, how much easier it would have been. So it is, yeah, again, it's that whole thing of you have to go all in with that training so you can have the best results. And I feel sometimes like at the weekend, I was like, oh, I can't be bothered to do a long run. It was like an hour and a half run. And it probably took me an hour and a half to persuade myself to go out to do the run, which was annoying. But it's like once I've done it, I've completed week one. Wow, that feels great. Completed week two. Oh, it's stepped up a bit. But when I've done it, that feels great. So yeah, I've got the full running program, which will take me up to the end of June. And the event is the 4th to the 6th of July. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Amazing. And what's going to be like your strategy for the race? Like going in and doing 100 milers? Are you going to be doing like walk run? Are you breaking it down into 20, 25 mile blocks? Like what does that look like?
At the moment, I think the only thing I've thought of is I definitely it's going to be like a mixture of a walk run strategy. I haven't thought yet about am I going to break it into like segments like 20 miles, that type of thing. So for me at the moment, for my mindset to get me prepared for it, I'm just thinking I've got 100 miles. I'm going to run 100 miles. Yeah, that's where that's where I'm at. And because of I feel a lot more confident with my training. I feel like it's possible. So yeah, for me at the moment, it's just like building up that stamina, building up that strength. Running, walking is where my mind's at the moment to get me to that goal.
Maybe you don't even need to think about the complete race in terms of actually maybe it's just instead because that can sometimes I think be almost like quite overwhelming. You know you've got it booked in, you know you've got the deadline, but actually you don't even need to think about the whole week of training. It's literally it's I suppose wake up, what training do I need to do today or what recovery do I need to do today? That's all you need to focus on because then by the time, a couple of months have passed, you'll look back and be like, okay, I've done my 16, 18, 20 weeks of training. And you've put in the work, you've got the evidence for it. But what would be interesting is, so you mentioned that you're celiac. How much have you changed your diet in terms of like how much you're consuming? Because when you're doing like, big distances, you do need to eat more. And what have you found that you're taking out on your runs with you or your training runs that have really sort of worked well for you and being celiac?
Yeah, I mean, I've been celiac for like over 25 years, so it's definitely better than it is now. So that in terms of like being able to access food. So I just think what I was doing, I was eating the calorie intake is a level as somebody that's not really training. So it was never enough. So I would always be constantly tired and exhausted. So first off, I had to kind of like up my calories in the first place. I don't know where I got this mindset from about not having anything like with carbs, like pasta, potatoes, or stuff like that. I think it's sometimes with celiac, you worry about it, especially like getting like gluten-free pasta or certain dishes that I kind of cut out carbs. I don't know why. And so mainly my like meals would just consist of like it would be meat and vegetables when actually the carbs would actually help fuel me. And since I've been doing that, I can tell the difference in my energy levels. So I don't wake up feeling exhausted and constantly like I've got no energy. So what I've learned is when I'm going on my actual runs, I make sure I get like the gels and the oat bars and stuff so that I'm actually taking it throughout. Whereas before I would get up in the morning and do it on a fast. I don't know why again. I think it's because nobody ever teaches you how to prepare or fuel for a run. It's something you kind of learn over time. So I would just get up and I would do it a run on with no food or drink, which was is crazy. So I think it's for me, it's not being afraid to consume the food. I think as we're taught like, oh, if you're gonna overeat or, you know, you're not eating the right things. What I found is actually that is my fuel and I need it to drive me to be able to complete it. And I can 100% tell the difference because I don't feel like I'm lacking energy like I did before.
I think I went probably like 15 years to 20 years of not eating before exercise because I'd seen an article in a magazine that Madonna didn't eat
Yeah,
before.
somebody's been way. Yeah.
and it led to more fat burning.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like this mixed messaging or this well actually very purposeful messaging that women receive about what their body needs to look like, and that can be very um I definitely had like you going back and forth where it's like I want to be lean and I want to be
Yeah.
strong, but then actually you've got to fuel, you've got to eat enough to when you're doing this level of training. I'd be interested as well. Are you taking any supplements?
Yeah, because I've always had quite low iron anyway, so I take iron supplements, which is like then I make sure that I have iron-based food, you know, like your spinach and things like that. But yeah, I do. I always take iron supplements as well, which I've found really helpful.
I mean, I'm not a doctor, but one of the big things, and obviously test it out for yourself and everybody listening, I really noticed for me, with the terms of my fatigue levels, two things that massively helped me was creatine.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
like really, really worth like do some research into creatine and the benefits for women, especially when you start taking 5 to 10 grams a day and omega threes. I really noticed a big difference with my recovery from those.
Yeah,
It might just be worth looking into as
yeah. I'll have
well.
a
I think
look.
it's almost like the slippery. a slippery slope when you start training for big events. Like the more you look into stuff, like the more detail it's even from what trainers you wear, what socks you wear, like what
It's
pack
true.
you yeah, yeah, like do you do you have electrolytes in your water or do you take
Yeah.
tablets? Like there's actually like there's a lot to cover off. But then this is also part of the I suppose the journey of well, like your book, Daring to Dream. Like
Yeah.
actually it's not only dreaming big, but it's also putting in all of these actions for it.
Yeah, because I did even to like in terms of my kit. Now you said that for the wall, like I did. I saw people they had them, the sticks for walking. Like I thought,
Yeah,
why hadn't I brought those? So when I was going to, basically, I did do my research. So when there was sections where it was so hilly and people had their sticks, then I'm like, oh my god, like I'm literally crawling where they're using their sticks and they're just guiding up the hill. So even like now I'm better informed in terms of what equipment do I need to take with me. So yeah, it's all a learning curve.
but even with trainers as well, like,
Yeah,
you probably need about, to be honest, like 4 or 5 pairs of trainers, and, you or maybe not 4 or 5, but,
yeah.
to actually, like or to have 2 or 3 pairs which you rotate.
Hey, yeah, which I didn't realise as well. So I
Yeah,
just had the same one, and it was like I remember I could feel it, like I was walking, and I had a blister and it popped, and I could, and you're like, oh no, but I couldn't change it because I had nothing else with me. So yeah, it's just those little things that you don't
yeah,
realise. Yeah,
yeah. But it's also, because obviously you wear through 1 pair of trainers in your training and you don't wanna start the race
it's true.
with anything new, but you don't necessarily know this, and then it's also it's one of these other lessons around like the financial impact as we talked about the time commitment, but actually I mean, what I was spending on not only gear, but like protein
It's
supplements and
true.
and if you have a coach or a personal trainer and then it's a gym membership and then you need to do your yoga and then
Yeah,
oh you might want to do a bit of swimming and it's like well, okay so then it's like £7 to go for a
it's true.
swim and
Yeah, it was actually expensive, like, because I remember when I afterwards, somebody was like, "Oh, how much do you spend on the?" When I thought about the cost of the actual weekend, because you are there pretty much for a weekend, and with the race entry, and I said I probably spent about £1,000. They're like, "Are you mad? I thought it was free." I said, "No, but this is how much these events cost." Like, I don't think people realise that. Like you said, there's so many different costs to get to actually do the event and then complete it. So, yeah, it is an investment. It's definitely an investment.
it's such an amazing thing to do
Yeah, 100%.
for your foundation as well.
Yeah.
Um, Lorraine, where are you most active on social media, and how can people connect with you and follow along with your training journey?
Yeah, so my Instagram page. So if you search for Lorraine Lewis on Instagram, you'll definitely find me there. I'm always uploading stories and things that I'm up to and activities I'm doing. So yeah, definitely connect with me on there. It's a good place to find me.
One thing that we haven't talked about is that you do actually have a podcast as well. Would you like to share
Yes.
more about your podcast and what you talk about on the podcast?
Yeah, so last September I launched a podcast called See Through the Big C. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Came across a company who actually it's a small world. So when the founder of the company was at university, he was looking at people to do projects like filming projects, and he'd come across the Lewis Foundation and did a project about it as part of his course, and then didn't really hear from them again. People do move on, but then we happened to at some point apply for the funding for something at the same time. We're both successful, and it brought us back together again. So we decided to work on doing this podcast where I was able to share the stories of cancer patients, people supporting somebody with cancer, and hospital professionals. So having those conversations that you wouldn't normally have or hear about unless you're in the hospital setting. So it's about stories. It's about actually learning what people are going through, what the reality is like for people with cancer, what people need. So for me, it's kind of like a way to get people's voices out there and to give them a voice. And what I've really learned about it is that people want to share their story, and that it's not very often where somebody gets a chance to share their story about cancer. So when people come in, it's like it all spills out because it's something they've built up for a long time because nobody's been able to ask them that question before. And I'm really proud of it. We've done 14 episodes now, and it's been with a whole mixture of different people from different backgrounds. But yeah, I think it's about giving a voice to people that normally wouldn't have one, and that's really important to me.
Absolutely. You are doing amazing work as the CEO and co-founder of the Lewis Foundation, the author of an amazing book, Dare to Dream. You've got the podcast, See Through the Big C. I'm going to be sharing all of those links in the show notes so that people can connect and follow along. But Lorraine, I'd love for you to share your final words of advice, final words of wisdom for other women out there who also want to dare to dream. You know, they want to go after big, audacious goals and challenges. What would you like to share? But please don't say just do it. Anything else apart from that?
I think what we have to remember is that, from my experience, like being surrounded by people with cancer, it makes you really realize that, like, one minute you could be living your life fine, and the next minute you get this diagnosis, and that diagnosis could mean that you might not be here for much longer. And I think we need to remember that we need to live our lives. I know life can be tough and it can be challenging, but we only have that one opportunity and that one life. And I've spoken to people who are dying that have had regrets, that they wish they had tried this thing, or they did this thing, or I wish I had more time. So for me, it's about make the most of the time that we have on this planet. So just find whatever it is that excites you, motivates you, lights you up. Anything, I generally believe anything is possible if we put our minds to it. But I think it's just remembering we have one life, we have to live it.
Absolutely. One life. We do have to live it. Lorraine, thank you so much for the incredible work that you are doing with the Lewis Foundation. And thank you so much for your inspiring message to other women. And best of luck with your training and your 100-mile race. I'm so excited to follow along.
Thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
Hey, tribe. I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Lorraine. What an absolute inspiration. Like hearing her talk about her 70-mile race and that mental resilience and that grit and that determination to push on through, and then, you know, learning her lessons and then going after a 100-miler. That is exactly like the title of her book, Dare to Dream. So this is my request to you. I want you to dream. Dare to dream big. Dare to dream. Dare to dream outside your comfort zone. Dare to dream about what could go right for you, what the next step could be. What are your interests? What are your passions? What are your hobbies? Where do you want to push yourself that little bit harder? And if you are looking for more inspiration, obviously you have just heard Lorraine speak, then do pick up her book as well, Dare to Dream, a memoir. It's a really lovely little read, just sharing more about her life and the challenges and adventures that they've been through. To everybody who is currently out running, walking, hiking, cycling, biking, training for their next adventure and challenge, really, really proud of you for sticking with it, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and it's rainy and it's cold and it's wet. Getting out on those days really does help to build your mental resilience and determination. And if you're pottering or driving or commuting while listening to this podcast and wishing you were outside, make plans, get a date booked in the diary, reach out to a friend, plan a walk, plan a hike, plan a visit to the park, go and visit a friend, get something fun in the diary for you to look forward to. That is a big part of happiness. Thank you so much for listening to the Tough Girl podcast. I've taken out the intro. I'm going to see how this goes. I went through a phase of that a couple of years ago. And then I got feedback saying actually people did need the intro, but I've been listening to a couple of my episodes and I just end up skipping through the intros. I don't know if you do or not. So I thought, you know what, let's just get to the good stuff. Let's just get to the guests sharing their stories. Because I think if you've been listening for a while, you probably know what the Tough Girl podcast is about and who I am and what I'm doing. And if you're new, there's loads of information on the website. Go and check it out at toughgirlchallenges.com. But I'd love your thoughts, love your feedback. I'm going to try it out for the next couple of weeks. Just no intro, just the sort of 9-10 seconds of the Tough Girl podcast music and then straight into the episode. Please do let me know what you think. I'd love for you to tell one friend about the Tough Girl podcast. If you haven't written a review, I would love for you to write a review, even if it's just a couple of sentences, maybe a particular episode that you've enjoyed listening to, or why you listen to the podcast, or which women it could help to motivate and inspire. That would help other women, you know, because you always do. It's like when you buy something on Amazon, you have a quick scan through the reviews, don't you, just to see if it's worthwhile. lifestyle. So the more reviews that are written, the more likely it is that women and men will be like, okay, let's give this a listen. And you could end up paying it forward and helping to change someone's life, because you just never know what episode that they listen to and how it inspires them to dream, dare to dream a little bit bigger. So pay it forward, tell friends, write reviews. Please do help get the Tough Girl message out there. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I really appreciate you. A massive thank you to all the patrons and supporters as well who support the mission of the Tough Girl podcast. And you can do that via PayPal or via Patreon. I want to say a big thank you to Louise, who signed up as a new patron. Louise, thank you so much for coming on board. I really do appreciate it. And also Nadine. Hey, Nadine, thank you also for signing up as a patron. It really makes a massive difference. And there's options to sign up monthly, so it's a month every month. A couple of dollars, a couple of pounds comes out, or you can sign up as an annual patron. So once a year, you could pay 20, 30, 40 pounds, it just obviously just depends what it is that you can afford. But I also do understand that there are a lot of podcasts that you will be listening to, and it is hard to support a lot of creators, and there is a lot going on at the moment financially. So if you're not in a position to financially support, I totally understand. Please continue to listen to the podcast. Please continue to be inspired. And I know that there will be a time, whether it's a couple of weeks, couple of months, or a couple of years, you will pay it forward. It really makes a massive difference having a regular source of income coming in to help fund the running costs. But I go on about that at every single episode. So you probably get the message by now. But thank you again for listening. I really do appreciate you so much. And all that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.